So we have talked about the big games that are happening this weekend, the fun storylines, but an ongoing storyline through the entire last few weeks has been the college football playoff rankings. There are some wild scenarios that could potentially play out, and since my team is out, I cheer for all the chaos. What Will, I think was it in our group text message, one of you guys sent a scenario where there's 7 teams with 10 wins or better in the SEC. In that scenario, tell me those teams: Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, Vanderbilt, Tennessee. Was it Missouri?
Tennessee and Missouri were out of it. So it'd be A&M, it'd be Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas, Vandy, and Oklahoma. They all have paths to get to 10 wins. And for A&M and Bama, they'd play in Atlanta, obviously. But you're looking at 7 potential 10-win teams in the SEC. And if that happens, I mean, the team that misses out is probably Vanderbilt because they wouldn't have that next level win. I hate saying that because I want to see Vandy in the playoffs so bad. But obviously, let's say you do have 7 10-win SEC teams. Oregon, who is at number 8, they still have to play USC, and they have to go to Washington. Those are both losable games. They could also be another 10-2 team. Notre Dame, this game against Pitt is not easy. Even though Narduzzi came out and said he'd be fine losing by 100, that's still a tough spot. So you have all these other teams, and Miami's still in the mix for whatever reason, but a lot of other teams could also be at 10-2. So then you can look at, just in this example, because I think Vandy's the odd one out there, 10-2 Vandy versus the resume of a 10-2 Miami. What's really being valued there? Because, I mean, the ACC, that doomsday scenario where they may get no team in the playoffs says it for itself. The ACC is just not even on the same planet. That's a different sport. So I think that if you get a Miami and Vandy of the same record, you have to go Vandy. But if it was an Oregon or Notre Dame, that's when it gets a little bit more hairy, where I think, the SEC only gets 6 teams in. But, I mean, with this, people would be so pissed if the SEC got half the playoff field in. But with the way the schedule lines up, it's very possible.
Yeah. TJ, what do you think? You are not an SEC homer like the other 2 people you share a screen with.
Will's less of an SEC homer than you, and tries to at least put some thought behind things. Where I feel like Allie just bleeds the blue and yellow of the SEC logo. When the orange is gone, the yellow comes out. Yeah, I think it's going to be tough. I do think that at this moment, I think they get 6. Okay. To me, it feels like Oregon and Notre Dame would have to play their way out. So if you just look at the teams like you feel that are locked in right now, I mean, Georgia could play their way out for sure too, right? But for the sake of the example, Georgia, Alabama, A&M, Ole Miss, Indiana, Ohio State, Group of 5, ACC, or another Group of 5, and Big 12. So there's 8 teams there. And we think that Notre Dame and Oregon are going to get into, right? So you're fighting for a limited number of spots. Somehow my math just didn't work out, but whatever the number was, like 11 spots are essentially spoken for.
Yeah.
In the playoff. With the 4 SEC teams, the 3 Big 10 teams, there's 7. Notre Dame's 8, ACC's 9, Big 12 is 10, and Group of 5 is 11. There's the idea of the Group of 5 might get 2 if the ACC doesn't get in with Duke. So I think you're fighting for one spot unless an Oregon or a Notre Dame plays their way out of it. I think.
Is that Vandy then? That's the odd man out?
I mean, I think it's Vandy and Oklahoma if Texas splits their last 2 games. I think
that's the question. Would an Oklahoma team who's 10-2, who just beat Alabama, be left out over Notre Dame if they have the same record?
I'm sorry. So it's Oklahoma or Notre Dame?
If they both have the same record, Okie would have a win over Bama, and Notre Dame's best win would be that home game versus USC.
I think what the committee is telling you right now is that good losses don't matter. And they could change their mind on that. But right now, what they're telling us is that if you lose to A&M and Miami, we're not counting that against you. Yeah. I think there's a bigger precedent right now in the rankings. And I'm not saying I agree with this because I've never loved the idea of good losses. But I think what the committee is telling you right now is that they don't mind good losses. They like good losses more than they like good wins. Like, look at how much further Notre Dame is ahead of Miami, who beat them head to head.
Yeah.
Like Miami's got more important,
laid out why they haven't been happy with Miami,
which is totally fine. But when you look from a season long resume, They have a head-to-head with them and a bigger win, and a loss to a still ranked Louisville team and a loss to an SMU team who has one ACC loss in 2 seasons. Yeah. And so I'm thrilled that that's the way they look at it, because I don't want Miami anywhere near the playoff. But I think when you get to Selection Sunday, I think Oklahoma will have a great argument, and them beating Bama will be massive, but we'll know well before then. If they beat Bama, here's the thing. They beat Bama this weekend. Huge win, right, against a top 4 team. And Notre Dame at the same time beats a top 20 Pitt. Are they moving Bama? Are they moving Oklahoma ahead of Bama on Tuesday night's playoff rankings? Like, I'm not saying they won't, but I don't know that I don't know that I'm confident they do.
Yeah.
I don't think they would either.
Is Notre Dame 1 spot behind Ole Miss?
2
spots behind Ole Miss. You have to have that cushion, right? Like, you got to keep, because you do certainly have to keep Oklahoma behind Ole Miss because of the head-to-head. And so I don't know that they would move them ahead. And then I don't know that their wins against Missouri and LSU to finish the season are going to be enough to move them ahead. So I don't know. I also think brand matters. And I think the SEC brand and the Oklahoma brand are very strong. I think the Notre Dame eyeballs would be stronger. I think that matters for the playoff committee. Not that it should. On
your side, it is very hard to lose.
Yeah, I can't see them. I just think a 10-2 Notre Dame team gets in, especially if their 2 losses were the first 2 losses of the year. We didn't see them ever falter like we did Oklahoma at times. I don't know. I think that's a good question. I think the most interesting one, how about this? 9-3 Texas, who loses close this weekend to Georgia and then beats the number 3 team in the country. 9-3 Texas against 10-2 Vandy with the head-to-head that Texas had.
It would have to be Texas, wouldn't? I mean,
yeah,
because we've been told. And here's the question I have for the playoff committee:
have better wins.
Yeah,
because right now Vandy's better wins is Missouri.
Vandy's best win will be against Tennessee at the end of the year, I think.
Tennessee, yes,
that'll be there. Like, assuming Tennessee goes and wins in the Swamp, which hasn't been done since George Bush was in office. I do think. But they told us this year that we weren't going to look strictly at wins and losses. Mm-hmm. And I think a 9-3 Texas with a head-to-head over 10-2 Vandy, I think Texas is the better team and the more deserving team.
I mean, it's the bigger brand, so
I think brand matters too. But if you're just the whole idea, was we're not gonna punish you for bad losses,
right?
Or I'm sorry, good losses, right? And so you got a loss to the number 1 team in the country. You got a win over the number 3 team in the country. You beat Oklahoma, who is hovering around, like we're talking about, the bubble, and you lost to Georgia, who's a top 5 team. If Notre Dame's not getting penalized for losing to A&M and Miami, then I don't think you penalize Texas for losing to Georgia and Ohio State. Now, the Florida loss is there, and it happened, but I still think 9-3 Texas is probably more impressive. I think that'd be a wild precedent to set, though, to give the 9-3 team the slot over the 10-2 SEC team.
Well, I mean, did we stamp enough feet when it happened to Bama that a 9-3 Bama team was left out? Will we see an overcompensation of a 9-3 Texas team getting in? I don't know. I just don't love that there's no clean formula which I'll get on my BCS soapbox, but it irks me to no end that we have no consistency week 1 to week 2 to week 5 or whatever for these polls. And truly, they actually could do the exact same thing from the first week they do a poll all the way to the second to last week, and then completely reverse course and do something totally different the very last week. And we have no recourse on that or any real window into why that happens. And that's why this system is so flawed, in my opinion.
Yeah. I do think that the biggest domino to fall for a Vandy or Oklahoma to get in would be Oregon, because I don't think Oregon's done losing. I said they did play USC at home and at Washington. Mm-hmm. Let's say if they lose the Washington game, it's a lot cleaner. Yeah. Because then you have 10-2 going against each other. I think the SEC brands in the strength of record prevail. If USC beats them and then USC is 10-2, they wouldn't go to Indianapolis. It would be Austin, Indiana. But then you have a 10-2 USC team who would now have wins over Oregon. They would have beaten Michigan. They would have won on the road in Nebraska. They haven't lost Notre Dame. But then all of a sudden you have USC in the mix, also at 10-2, who didn't go to a conference championship, who's now going against an Oklahoma, gets a Vanderbilt. There are so many chaos scenarios where you could have like 18 teams here who think they deserve a spot. That's what I'm cheering for at the end of the day. I want
all the chaos. Give me all the chaos.
I know we're primarily SEC focused, but Will, what do you do if Michigan wins out, including a win against the number 1 team in the country, and they finish 10-2, and their loss is to Oklahoma and USC, who's also way up there too? Okay, Michigan 10-2, Vandy 10-2. I think Michigan's getting in.
Michigan,
they have to if they beat Ohio State.
Yeah. Which I'm not predicting that happens. I think they go 9-3. I think they win out and lose that one. But I think Michigan could soar. And again, we talk about brands, and I know that we love to hype up the SEC brands. There ain't many bigger than Michigan, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is. And if they beat Ohio State the last week there, the same way I think 9-3 Texas. If you beat A&M that last week, you're going to get a ton of credit for that.
Yeah.
And you almost wonder if Sankey would like call in a favor and be like, "Hey guys, like just drop this one. Like you're already in. Just drop it for us, and you'll be in like that." But I'll tell you, Michigan could certainly hold some things in their hand. And at that point, I think if they win out, if they beat Ohio State, you got to put them in.
I think that this playoff craziness is going to be a new segment we got to do at the end of this show for the rest of until they announce the final bracket, because there's just so many chaos scenarios that can still transpire even with just a couple weeks left of the season.